As you all have picked up, there is a very public argument going on within government at the moment about how to proceed, possibly whether to proceed on the communications database issues. And I think that public argument has been brought forward, I think, rather than triggered by the leak that appeared in the papers. Clearly that argument would have happened at some point once any bill or any proposals had been formally launched. I guess the leak has been helpful in actually bringing forward the argument, so there's a better opportunity to influence the outcome than there would have been if something had been put down on paper. Now, what I've been asked to talk about is some of the issues, and clearly some of them have been referred to by Chris and other speakers. There is an issue around RIPA and the way the existing systems are operating, and the range of organisations that can access data, as you'll be familiar, is very extensive and includes organisations that perhaps you'd expect to be able to access communications data, but also others that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily be able to expect to access data. So clearly there is an issue that needs to be resolved in terms of RIPA. There has been some improvements in relation to local authority accessing communications data in the Protection of Freedoms Bill, but there's much more, I think, that needs to be done. And if there is going to be any technological changes made in relation to Facebook or Skype or any other media, then I think the quid pro quo would have to be tightening up of RIPA and the other controls that apply to accessing the data. So in terms of perhaps other issues that are being discussed at the moment, obviously cost is an issue. Cost is an issue both in terms of making any adjustments that might be proposed in relation to any existing technologies, but of course there are future costs that will be derived from any future technological developments. The issue of content versus the header information about, or which contains the comms data. I'm sure that for those of you who were here earlier with Julian Huckett, a colleague of mine, I'm sure he will have dwelled on that at some length and will have drawn to your attention the meeting next week that he's organising with Facebook and others represented, really to try to get to the bottom of whether in practice it is possible to unpack one without the other, and that's a very hot debate within government at the moment as well. Security remains an issue, and I think there is a difference. I guess probably you as an audience wouldn't think it was a significant one between the original proposals about a centralised database as opposed to requiring individual ISPs and others to hold that data themselves. I think that is that does mean that yes, there are security issues, and we know that. We all know of examples of employees of telecoms companies selling on databases for commercial reasons. Clearly, if there are people who are willing to do that, they may be willing to do it for other purposes as well. So there are security issues to address in terms of hacking or insider operations. So all of those things are things that are now very actively being discussed within the coalition, and I hope that as a result of those discussions that what emerges will be much more palatable than what was originally mooted, although of course what was originally mooted in the articles was not actually based on anything that was available and wasn't based, as far as I'm aware, on an actual bill. So I think it was to some extent speculation about what was being proposed. So has there been any progress since that leak? Well, I suppose the one piece of progress that there has definitely been is that it is now very clear that there will be pre-legislative scrutiny, so all of the organisations represented here now have a much better opportunity to input into that process and influence that process than might have been the case otherwise. And although I don't know what's in the Queen's speech, certainly there is a very strong push to try to ensure that the National Crime Agency proposals, which have got to come forward because we're creating a National Crime Agency, ideally we want to see disconnected from this issue, because then, if it's not, then you get into arguments about, well, the National Crime Agency is a very positive thing that we want to do. This isn't at all positive, but if you object to one, then you're objecting to the other, and it creates significant management problems. So hopefully those two can be disconnected, and then politically I think it means that National Crime Agency, which is something that we do support, can go through without too many complications, whereas this issue, if it is separate, then I think it provides a much greater opportunity for the parliamentary scrutiny. So I will stop there, and very happy to field any questions if anyone's got any.
Right. We're going to ask 3 questions.